No, that much is absolutely. I mean, I don't know if that's ever been the case, but that is definitely true.
But
it's pitiful.
Yeah. You know who is living in reality?
Who's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixelat. My name is Kevin. With me, as always, is Phil. And on today's show, we're doing Dishonored, the Corroded Man.
We are really hitting a whole lot of new franchises this year. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
We're tapping into some new shit lately, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love it. So, Dishonored, the Corroded Man. It's based on the Dishonored series, which is an all-time favorite of mine. It takes place after Dishonored, a year before Dishonored 2. So it's exactly, and there's a few things, like they are pretty specific about the dates in the book. They mention, they say, the author, Adam Christopher, puts a date in front of everything. So the Dishonored franchise, first game, simply called Dishonored, was made by Arcane, by the now shuttered Arcane, I believe is Arcane Austin made, it was just Arcane at the time when they made it. Yeah, Arcane
Rest
Studios. There was no, it wasn't... I think Arcane Austin made it. And now there's there's Arcane Leon, but the Austin branch was shut down. So Arcane Studios is published by Bethesda. It's a first-person stealth action game with a lot of sim elements. There's a lot of emergent gameplay. And it also it was really cool that it had like this kind of chaos system built into it, where there's kind of two ways you could play. If you were very stealthy and you were non-lethal for most of the time, it would keep low chaos, and you would have, it's harder to do. It's harder to be stealthier and non-lethal, but it made some things easier for you because you didn't leave a trail of bodies in your wake. You weren't there's this thing called the rat plague that's happening in the city of Dunwall at the time.
Yes.
They reference it we're going to talk about it. They reference it a bunch in the book that we're reading. So there's this rat plague, and if you don't kill people, well, there's nothing for the rats to feed on and multiply within, because that was kind of the thing, is they were like eating bodies and going inside the bodies, and then the bodies would explode and there would be more rats.
Got pretty graphic.
Pretty graphic there. And so the basic story of the first game is you play as Corvo, who is the Lord Protector of the Empress. She is killed in a sneak attack by a man named Daud, and it was orchestrated by a few of the higher ups in the Dunwall government. And then the daughter, the Empress's daughter, Emily, is kidnapped, and this one guy installs himself as the Lord Regent of Dunwall. And you, Corvo, are thrown in jail, and the game begins basically with you escaping from jail on the day that you are to be executed for your high treason, because obviously they have pinned the murder of the Empress on you, and so it's
so clear you did this.
You did this. So you fight your way through Dunwall and other areas, trying to get to the heart of what of the bad guys who did this. And along the way you meet someone called the Outsider, who is basically like a spectral god-like figure who grants his power to people, and no one is really sure the rhyme or reason as to when or why he does it necessarily, question mark. So he grants the powers to Corvo, and these things let him do things like teleport from one spot to another, go invisible, I believe. There's a whole list of things that you can do with these powers that you gain from the outsider. That was Dishonored. One of my favorite games. I actually started playing it again this evening right before we got on, just because I realized I had never played it on Steam. I guess I played it on PS5 or something like that, or PS4 rather, because I was like, 0 hours played. I've played through Dishonored before,
I'm gonna have to change that. Gotta rack up some hours. That. Yeah.
I cannot have one of my favorite games sitting in my Steam account with the shame of 0 minutes played. So that's the game that this is all based on. Phil, do you know who Adam Christopher is? This dude with a real big chin, it looks like.
Definitely. He's half man, half chin, as far as we can tell. Kiwi. Comes out of New Zealand. That's those famous Kiwi chins. He is actually very interesting to me because, like a lot of our writers for hire, he started out with one original kind of book and then just got picked up from there as a writer for hire. But it kind of makes sense when you consider that both of his pieces of fiction, original fiction, were published by Angry Robot. So it's already built into the entertainment industry in terms of movies and TV and what have you. And Angry Robot, and they do video games too, I think. Like, they're all over the damn place. J.J. Abrams cannot be sated with media.
I thought J.J. Abrams was Bad Robot.
Oh shit! Oh god, see, it's not an episode of Pixel Lit if I don't prove that I am a hack and a fraud and don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You're absolutely right. This happened to me when I was talking about I forget. I think it was Senua's Sacrifice in a video years and years back, and I said it was funny that this was a Ninja Theory game because it didn't make me think of like Ninja Gaiden and their remake of it, and someone had to pop in there and be like, "That's different. That's different. That's not the same."
It's oh fuck, what is it? Not Ninja Theory, but Ninja
Ninja something.
Something.
Yeah, and like this.
Team Ninja did Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Theory did Senua's Sacrifice.
That's it. I got them mixed up, and someone kindly pointed this out, and I had it coming. There's no one to blame but myself.
He had it coming.
Exactly.
He had it coming.
So forgive me for my ignorance on this one. It all the same. He started out with a couple of novels and was picked up almost immediately to do some work for hire. However, the work for hire was being done by Angry Robot, and it involved Empire State, which is not a series that I am terribly familiar with.
Sure.
But from there, he got into this is another one I don't know, Ray Electromatic Mysteries. So that's a whole thing. The Spider Wars, which again, that's a new one. And then he get into some franchises that I'm more familiar with. Dishonored. He wrote a trilogy of this, and this is the first one, obviously. From there, he's also done a Stranger Things novel, which I did not know existed.
He did some elementary novels.
Yes. That's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing, right?
So yes, Elementary was a present-day Sherlock Holmes. It was on CBS. It was most notably known for being 1,000% better than the BBC Sherlock Holmes.
Nice.
Which starred Benedict Cumberbatch. Elementary starred Lucy Liu and what's his name? You know this guy. Look, fuck. He's one of those guys. Lead actor.
Johnny Lee Miller?
Johnny Lee Miller. There we go.
Sick boy?
There he is. Johnny Lee Miller.
Yeah.
He plays Sherlock. Lucy Liu plays Watson. Dr.
Oh,
Watson.
that's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's funny.
It's a lot, and it's a lot better than the Benedict Cumberbatch one that is overwrought and, all that stuff.
Too much.
It's too much. It's too much.
Too much. He did some Star Wars stuff. But one of the more interesting things I found is that he actually helped write a few episodes of The Shield, which has nothing to do with the old TV show, for a comic book with Chuck Wendig, who is a really kick-ass horror writer and game designer out there, who has done a fair amount of Star Wars writing himself, which is probably how they met each other.
Yeah, Chuck Wendig. I've read his stuff, but also, wasn't he the one that was really shitty about the Internet Archive?
Was he? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, I'm just trying to remember. He basically drummed up a lot of support for suing the Internet Archive during COVID because it was loaning out too many books.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
He wasn't involved in the lawsuit, and he was written several things where it says, no, I don't have anything to do with the Internet Archive. And he's saying, no, I didn't do anything. And I do not support the lawsuit and all that. But he says several years later, after he did this Twitter thread where he was like, it's piracy. He wrote a thing on his blog saying I regret saying all those things. Okay. But
at least he pulled back on it.
It was kind of like check. I don't think this is the thing. This is not the hill to die on, buddy.
This is not it. This is not, and it's a shame because he does a ton of really well-regarded tie-in stuff, but actually his standalone stuff is really well-regarded in itself. Black River Orchard came out last year and I haven't read that one, but I know a lot of people really enjoyed it. But the Book of Accidents came out in 2021, and my wife and I both read that one. It might be the first example in our relationship of a time that she read a horror novel before I did.
Wow.
She picked up that one and read it and said, you really gotta read this thing. And it was pretty good.
Not bad.
Not bad stuff. So, but enough about Chuck Wendig. We're not talking about
We're not talking about him. We're not talking about we're talking about patreon.com/pixelpod. That's what we're talking about right now.
There it is.
Right into it. Patreon.com/pixelpod. It's such a great website. Don't you think? Mm-hmm. Don't you all think?
It's the best.
Tremendous. It's a tremendous website.
People tell me all the time.
People tell me all the time.
It's beautiful. They come to me, tears in their eyes.
You're doing it's funny, you can do a Trump impression without actually doing the voice. You just start doing a little rambliness with the words tremendous, and people tell me,
immediately people know what you're doing.
People say and all that. People know what you're doing.
That's good for the kids at home. Like, you don't have to do a perfect impression, my friends. Just find the things that they do and follow it.
Find the things they do and kind of repeat them in a way that makes sense, and then you got it.
And try to keep the vomit down. That's really all you can hope for.
Try to keep the vomit down, and when you do, go follow us for free on patreon.com/pixelitpod. You can follow us for free. Doing that gets you early access to the episodes if I'm able to get them up before Wednesday, and this week I did. Paying us $1 a month gets you access to Phil's blog, in which he writes and little reviews on the books that he's reading. $5 a month gets you the ad-free episode and a bonus from before the show, even before that we record before the show. And $10 a month gets you your name shouted out every episode. So to that end, Kyle Seaman, Jesus Loves You, Ruthless Mutter, and Friendly Friend, thank you all for being friends of the pod. Thank you so much. That's the end of the show, and we're going to go put a body in the marsh.
Oh, let's go put the body in
Let's
the
put the
marsh.
body in the marsh. All right.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
So we're talking the Corroded Man, and we're opening with a prologue. And God damn it, if this is not a beefy prologue, this is the
yeah.
I was surprised when I saw chapter 1 after I got to the end of the prologue. It was like, oh, I thought I was already in chapter 1.
It does set the tone, doesn't it? Yeah.
This book is dense.
This is a beefy boy. This is a beefy boy. Lord.
It might be the longest book we've read by the time we get to the end of it. So the prologue opens with a note about the prisons of Tivia, wherein prisoners are free to leave at any time because of just how dangerous it is to leave. And it's kind of an interesting thing that this guy, this character, the prisoner, gets into, where you're sentenced to be free at this prison. So you can do whatever you want. There's nothing stopping you from leaving, except the harsh tundra that surrounds the prison. So
of course, I mean that's all.
That's all. So the book starts with a point of view of a man just called the Prisoner, and he's crossing the tundra of Tivia with a few guards that he has taken captive from the prison. He had 3. He killed the first one for his clothing. And he says the second of the 3 guards is going to be used for food, not for him, but for the wolves.
Right. Because, by the way, there are a ton of wolves out there.
There are wolves out there. And
you got to pay the wolf tax.
You got to pay the wolf tax as you're going along the tundra. As they continue, they find just him and the living guard find just bodies of frozen guys who tried to escape. Just so many. And it's revealed... It's revealed that the third prisoner has been brought along for his bones. He needs him for his bones. The prisoner needs living bones from living men to make the right type of magic so he's able to return to the world. And the prisoner is going to have his revenge on everyone that was responsible for putting him there. He kills the last guard, and the blood spills all over the snow. And we cut to... it's the 7th day, month of rain, in 1851, and we get a small quote from Hiram Burroughs, who was one of the bad guys from the first one, about Lady Emily as a kid and her training with Corvo Atano. We get a scene of Emily Caldwell doing some night parkour practice along the rooftops. She is the Empress of Dunwall, and she is trying to keep her activities at night secret. Her father is Corvo Atano, the royal protector. Spoilers for Dishonored 1, you find out that Corvo Atano, who is the royal protector to the Empress, was also the Empress's lover and fathered the child, Lady Emily, who eventually would become the Empress.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. Her father, Corvo Atano, the royal protector, has trained her over the course of her life. And we get some backstory that's basically Dishonored 1 backstory. How her mother was murdered on the orders of the Lord Regent, who took control of the Empire and took Emily hostage while Corvo had to work to save her. And we also get a lot of internal dialogue about her father and her relationship with him, as well as how she likes to climb buildings and loves being able to see her city at night. And she's
training to be Batman. Like, let's be real.
She's training to be Batman.
She's training to be Batman. That's what's happening.
This is Batman father, Catwoman son, Catwoman daughter.
Bingo, right there. That's exactly what it is.
Part 1. This fucker has parts, and then chapters within them. Part 1, chapter 1, first day, month of darkness, 1851. We're introduced to a new character called Gallia Fleet, who is a bodyguard at the bathhouse called the Golden Cat. We're introduced to her as she is kicking the shit out of an aristocrat who got a little too handsy with the talent at the Golden Cat. She is 35 years old and was a whaler in the past, which is a group of assassins led by a man named Daud. Other members include Billy Lurk, who later appears in the Dishonored 2 spin-off game. She's in Dishonored 2, and she's the main character of Death of the Outsider, as well as a guy named Ronaldo. The Whalers fell apart after the events of Dishonored 1, in which Daud killed the Empress, and then he was run off into, he was hiding by Corvo Otano. Over the years, she's gotten drunker and drunker. And at some point, she recruits one of her old Whaler buddies, Ronaldo, to help with security at the Golden Cat. One evening, a man in a mask shows up. Ronaldo and Gallia engage in a fight with him, and it seems like he's bad news. He basically hands them their asses. He is just like appearing and disappearing and reappearing. He seemingly teleports from reflection to reflection. While she's near him, Gallia has a vision while fighting him as with her as leader of the Whalers. And then the man tells her that he's not there to fight her. He's there to rescue her.
Oh, well, that's much better. That's way better than having to fight somebody.
Much better. Chapter 2. We're in the 8th day of the month of darkness in 1851, so it's a week later, and Emily is out and about on the rooftops and is venturing into parts of the city that she doesn't know as well in an effort to get to know the layout of the land better. And we get a lot of story about how Dunwall has been expanding. It's been pushing out the city wall. And there's like a lot of towns and villages that used to sit just outside of the city wall that are now basically just being absorbed into Dunwall proper. Mm-hmm. And she's not totally familiar with all these locations. And she heads towards one, which was a village that was mostly... there was like rich, well-to-do merchants that lived there, but they lived just outside of Dunwall. But it was abandoned since the rat plague. People died and all that stuff. And she notices that the square in the center of this town is not just like a park, but it's a cemetery. And I was like, that is some Savannah-ass bullshit right there.
That's exactly where my head went. I was like, oh, because initially I was like, well, yeah, sure. Like, why am I so blasé about that? Oh, because I'm from Savannah.
Yeah. You spent a lot. We spent a lot of time in Savannah, Georgia, and Savannah, Georgia is like, hey, there's a fucking cemetery. Or, hey, there's dead bodies buried here, but it's not a cemetery.
Yeah, just so you know. Just so you know.
Someone died where you're standing right now. If you take another step.
And it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Yeah.
There's like a yellow fever thing. Wasn't there? It was a yellow fever thing in Savannah.
Yeah, the yellow fever was big. Killed a bunch of people. Yeah.
Didn't they just build the town up a layer?
For all intents and purposes, yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing. They're just like, you got bodies underneath every block.
We're just going to go up.
And everyone's drunk and trying to fuck each other. It's a crazy city. I miss it. I love that place.
You miss it so much.
I do.
Yeah. So she ends up in this area. She sees that it's a cemetery. And then she notices that there's grave robbers. There's dudes digging up graves and taking the caskets out and putting them onto a truck. And she's like, listen, I'm pretty well trained. I'm basically Batman at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I can handle these guys. So she's like practicing her attack vectors when she notices there's a dude on a balcony of one of the houses acting as a lookout. And she's like, all right, well, I can handle this guy. But then she notices the guy is looking at her. So she ducks down and she tries to cool off. And she was like, you know what? This is not a good idea right now. So she's like, I'll deal with it tomorrow as under the faculties of being the empress of this country. Rather than, a masked vigilante at night.
This is not the last time this happens, by the way. She often goes in and goes, you know what? I'm gonna back off. I need to reassess the situation.
I'm gonna back off. I have greater resourso during my day job.
which is honestly not a bad way of doing things.
Not a bad way of doing things.
No.
So chapter 3 is continuation of that scene. It was not a lookout. It was her father, Corvo Otano, who has been well aware of her daughter's nighttime parkour roof running sessions.
Oh yeah, he knows all about it. It's just and what a dad move, by the way. Isn't that just such a dad move? Or it's just like, your dad knew when you were out there sneaking a cigarette. He knew all that shit.
He knew all that shit.
He kept it to himself.
You think you're being sneaky.
Let him think he's get away with it.
Corvo is like, look at you, kid. You made the right call. But it's like, he's like, well, she probably could have taken them.
He's like, you could have done it, but you know what? Chip off the old block. All things considered.
All things. He has this nagging feeling though that he's not ready to let her do it. Not as a dad, but as the royal protector. Like the thing about him is like his ingrained job of being the royal protector. Is like, you shouldn't let the Empress try to fight some goons.
Which is, I mean, that is probably first and foremost, even beyond. I think if it were any other situation, I'd be like, come on, it's because you're a dad. But in that one, it's like, no,
he's like, as a dad, he's pretty confident in how well he's trained her. But as the royal protector, he's like, I probably shouldn't.
This is probably, I'm going to go, discourage that if I get the opportunity.
Probably not doing a good job at my job if I'm doing that.
If I just let that happen, it's problematic to what I'm doing right now anyway. So
Corvo is about to do his little void jump shadow walk thing that he can do when he noticed that one of the grave robbers is wearing a whaler uniform, which understandably spins him out a little bit. He's like, it's a whaler. It's a whaler uniform. That's a whaler. And because the whalers killed his lover, the prior empress. So
he's not a big fan of them, is what you're saying.
He's not a big fan of them, no.
Yeah.
The whaler has seen him, though, and Corvo and the whaler begin and get into a bit of a scuffle, as well as like a teleportation battle across and around the courtyard. And Corvo loses the whaler, but he's out of energy, and he doesn't have any Addermeyer solution on hand to get his energy back, which in Dishonored 2, Addermeyer solution is basically like, it's just like a blue Gatorade thing that you have to drink in order to continually do like the magic stuff.
Right. It's a mana potion, really.
It's a mana potion. He doesn't have one on him, and he's wiped out.
Yeah, fair enough.
So he needs to fall back. Chapter 4, same night. So chapters 2, 3, and 4, it's like one continuous scene from 3 different points of view. We find out that Gallia, it was the whaler in the uniform, and she's out of breath from the encounter. She like takes off the mask that she's wearing, because the whalers wear these like heavy cloaks with a rubber mask and a ventilator thing on it. I guess to look like the whalers from when they harvested whale oil in this universe.
They're a Batman criminal gang.
They're a Batman criminal gang.
They got to keep the theme going.
They got to keep the theme going.
Death before betraying the theme. You know, always in character. The Batman theme continues. Yeah,
the Batman theme continues. That's right. That's basically what is it? Gas lamp.
Yes,
is the name of the genre.
Yeah. They did a whole series with that. Batman gas lamp something or other. God damn it! Now I have to look it up.
Yeah. Because it's like it's it's a really
Gotham by Gaslight.
Gotham by Gaslight. Yeah. So it's like a very specific type of setting, and there is a ton of fantasy novels set in this type of like it's like a fantasy science fiction blend where it is a 1850s like 1850s to 1880s, right on the cusp of whatever the world's industrial revolution is. Yeah. It's like a really advanced. It's like, all right, take whatever Game of Thrones, but now advance that world, 500 years.
Yeah. Half a millennia.
Yeah. And now you're getting closer to what this is, where it's like there's science and there's magic and there's science that uses magic to make it work.
Just don't question it. Just go with it.
Just go with it. So Gallia, her and the goons that are working for her bring the coffins back to Slaughterhouse 5, where they are operating out of. Is that intentional, I guess?
It has to have been. Like, nobody can pretend to ignore that. Like,
yeah.
Come on.
Like, if I was writing and I wrote Slaughterhouse 5 on accident, I'd be like, oh, and I would change the number. Because
absolutely. Absolutely. Or I'd call it an abattoir or something like that. Like anything else. But I'm not just going to leave that unless I'm doing it on a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Ronaldo talks to her for a bit, mentioning that the boss, the man that fought them earlier, hasn't moved since they left. She tells him that no one is to interrupt them while they're talking and goes into his office. And Gallia walks in the office and she dumps her mask on a nearby console. And we get some lore about the whale oil business while she muses about what she's going to actually say to him. And the boss is just kind of sitting there staring out of a window. Like, he never moves. Yeah. He's really creepy. She decides to be very direct, and what follows is this really tense back and forth where Gallia gets madder and madder, and the boss gives not one shit about the fact that she's angry or that they were seen. And he's also like, he's just one man and can do nothing. And I'm like, listen, this is Corvo Tano. He was the star of a video game called Dishonored. I don't think.
Perhaps you've heard of it.
Perhaps you heard of it. He's the man who beat her old boss. So I don't know what you're thinking of, what you're thinking you're doing here. And then they have the back and forth continues where the boss talks about the powers he's promised to Gallia. And then Gallia is like in, and then she's out, and then she's in, and then she just picks a fight with him.
Yeah. She like goes for him. It's like, what are you doing?
This is where I'm like, I like the book mostly, except for Gallia is just the weirdest goddamn character I've ever read because I don't understand her motivation from beat to beat.
She goes back and forth a lot, doesn't she? Yeah.
I don't get it, where it's like, why is she so angry? Hasn't she been working for him for a bit? Like, what does why is she getting this angry? I don't understand. So anyway, the boss easily wins, like takes her down without even like laying a finger on her, basically.
Oh, yeah. Humiliates her, basically.
He humiliates her, just bounces back and forth between reflections, and she just like takes herself out with punches. And then he's like, well, fine, I'll give you some more answers. The guy's name is Zukov, and he takes off his glove to show his hand, and it's like skeletal, but you can see that it has the mark of the outsider on it, and it's like skeletal and like flaking away, and it's just so gross. Anyway, he's here to save the world. Is his thing, and
that was the impression I got when I first that's what I figured he was here for. So chapter 5, still the 8th day, month of darkness. Corvo enters the throne room, so it's basically the morning now, for a meeting with the Empress, High Overseer Yul Kulan, Jameson Kerr, now the captain of the City Watch, and he is also Corvo's chief spy. They discuss the grave robbing situation, plans to mitigate it, as well as where to focus the overseers and the City Watch to keep an eye on other grave sites. As they're leaving, Wyman, who is Lady Emily's boyfriend. That's exactly the attitude they treat it with.
That is the vibe of this. He's a boyfriend.
Emily likes boys.
But I kind of appreciate the fact that it's like, yeah, she has a boyfriend. He's not an important character at all. But she has a boyfriend, and
it's a nice addition. I joke, but they don't make that big of a deal of it.
Yeah, it's just
a boyfriend, and Corvo's happy about it too. Like it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, someone like her can find love and all that. So Corvo is like, "Hey, hi, overseer. I need to meet with you for a second in your office." And then Corvo, on the way to the High Overseer's office, is like, it stops a lieutenant in the city watch and is like, "Hey, buddy, I need a guard detail on Lady Emily. Just, never let her out of your sight. Ever. And he's like, that should fuck up her nightly trips.
That'll keep her nice and not pregnant. Awesome.
That'll keep her nice and not slipping off of a rooftop and into
see, you were nighttime events. I was thinking
you were thinking with Wyman.
She's Batman. She's Batman. I keep forgetting.
She's Batman.
She's Batman.
So when Corvo and the High Overseer are in a private, Corvo asks him to break out any music boxes that they might have, and the High Overseer's like, "Ooh, why do you need the music boxes?" And Corvo's like, "Well, there might be some like black magic underfoot." And the High Overseer's like, "Oh, we might not have music boxes left." So the music boxes are a device that basically it's like they like neutralize the use of magic. So he's like, find whatever you have in inventory, dust them off, fix them up, see what we can do. And the overseer's like, "All right, I'll do what I can." Chapter 6, same day. Zukov fills in some backstory on himself. He was the hero of Tivia, and then suddenly he was of no use to the government of Tivia anymore, so they sent him to a prison camp. He talks about how the work at the camp is lethal, but he used it to keep himself strong. And then he had a dream about something called the Great Burning, which Gallia seems to know something about. I don't recall if that's a specific reference to something. Gallia is very impatient though with the whole "why are we stealing bodies" thing.
Yeah,
and demands
which
more
is
answers.
A valid question, by the way.
Yeah, I get it. Why are we digging up graves? So Zukov's like, "Fine, I'm going to show you." Also, he explains why he's corroding, why he is the corroded man. Is basically his teleport ability allows him to teleport from reflection to reflection. Well, he did that on the glacier surface, but because of the imperfections on the glacier surface, every time he teleported, it like broke him a little bit.
He's like leaving little pieces of himself behind.
Yeah, and now he is corroding, and his blood is fire. It's just like he is all sorts of fucked up. That's why he wears this heavy cloak at all times. I forgot to describe him. He wears a hat, like a rubber mask with gigantic red like eye things, and a heavy. He's like the Mothman, but wearing like a heavy wool cloak. It's
absolutely Mothman-esque, isn't it? It's just the big red eyes and
big red eyes and a heavy jacket. And rubber gloves and all that stuff. It's like the Mothman meets Judge Doom.
Yeah. You know what? I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Gallia, Zukov's going to show her. Meanwhile, Ronaldo has been listening to the exchange the entire time and is like, "What the actual fuck?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to keep spying on these two because I want to know exactly what Gallia has signed us up for." Zukov takes Gallia to a storeroom with just a mangled mess of dead bodies that he's been playing with in there. And Gallia is trying not to throw up because of the way he has been experimenting on the dead bodies. Zukov says he wants revenge, and not just on the high judges, but to everyone in Tivia. He wants to genocide his home country.
Which I think we've all been there.
Yeah. Zukov promises that if she continues to help him reach his goals, he'll give Galia enough power to turn the Whalers into an army that could take Dunwall. And his next mission for them is he needs something at Brigmore Manor, which was a seat of magic in Dunwall. He wants the Whalers to break into the Manor crypt and steal the bones of the witches that lived there. Chapter 7 takes place over days 9th through 11th of the month of darkness, and Emily is really annoyed at the guard detail. She's able to slip out one evening, but the next day the guard detail is expanded from one person to two people, so she can't get out anymore. She turns her attention to diplomatic issues such as the upcoming visit from Duca Luca Abel of Serkanos in the next year or so. Why was that called out specifically? Because that is the inciting incident in Dishonored 2.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
So that's what sets this about a year before Dishonored 2, because the beginning of that is receiving this guy, Duke Luca Abel, and shit happens. The grave robbing story drifts out of the newspapers in a matter of days because there's, no news about it. While at breakfast one morning, Lady Emily gets correspondence. It's an invite to the Boyle Masquerade, which is the social event of the year. The first invite always goes to the Emperor and Empress, but traditionally then the Emperor or Empress has to decline it. Emily hates this tradition. She never got to go to the Boyle Masquerade because she was made the Empress at age 11.
So she never got the fun aspect of it before.
She never got the fun aspect. If it was like she could spend her 20s, doing like partying or whatever, before she became Empress, she could have. So
but that didn't happen.
There were 3 Boyle sisters. Only one is left in Dunwall, Lady Esma Boyle. The one is dead, and the other is a fugitive on the run in another country. Emily walks around Dunwall Tower after breakfast, and she talks to a portrait of one of her predecessors and makes fun of her dad a little bit because her dad was like, don't worry about the ball. It's not fun.
I went once. It wasn't a big deal.
It wasn't a big deal. Yeah. She walks through the great hall where there's stations set up for like dressmaking and fabric and other accoutrements that's coming up for the Boyle Masquerade. And she sees some masks and she's like, wait a minute, it's a masquerade. Why can't I go? She's like, I'm going to ask Papa if he can accompany me. In chapter 8.
I'm going to Batman all over this masquerade. This is perfect.
Chapter 8, Ronaldo is sneaking around the area that Zukov showed Galia and is suitably grossed out at the dismembered and dissected bodies that are laying about. Arms sliced open and held open with the skin is held up with pins, and there's like bones removed, and there's like turned into sculptures and things like that. And Ronaldo is like, I need to have a chat with Galia about what this is. Because
what the fuck is going on? Yeah.
This is not great. And he takes one of the bone charms that he sees with him and leaves the basement, closing the door behind him. That was chapter 8. It's a short one. There's not much else that goes on.
Nah.
Chapter 9. We're in the 11th day of the month of darkness. Emily goes to her father's office to chat with him about her plan to go to the masquerade, but he isn't there. The coast is clear, though, and she decides to just use her skeleton key and unlock his door anyway because she doesn't want to go all around Dunwall Tower looking for him. So she's like, I'm just going to let myself in and see what his calendar says. But as she's rifling through his desk, she sees a highly detailed map of Dunwall on the table with markers on top of it. And she's like, what the fuck is this? And then she sees like there's all these markers. She's like, okay, so this marker represents the City Watch, and this marker represents the Overseers, and this marker probably is the Royal Spies. She's like, okay, what? I was not made aware of any of this. And then she finds an audio log, and it's from Jameson Kernow, the captain of the City Watch, reporting on watching Brigmore Manor, and he's relaying his report that there's something going down at the manor in a few days from his sources. And she's like, Emily at this point is like, what the fuck? Why have they not told me about any of this? They've been lying to my face over the last several days, saying that there's been no new leads about anything. And meanwhile, Corvo and Jameson and all that are just doing the whole planning without her. So she hates all that all this has been kept from her, and she notices that one of the locations that was marked as important is Greaves Auxiliary Slaughterhouse 5, and that's where she's going.
That's your ass.
Later that night, on the 12th day of the month of darkness, chapter 10, Emily parkours across the city to Slaughterhouse Row, and we get some backstory about how whale oil was harvested, which is just didn't like that.
That was pretty awful.
It's pretty uniquely awful. Where they would bring the whales in, and then they would slice them open while they're still alive, trying to get the hot whale oil into these canisters. And she's like, "Thank God that we're like going away from whale oil."
we still use a lot of it, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
But that's why Slaughterhouse Row is like mostly abandoned now, because the whale consumption is so low at this point. So she goes and she starts spying. She gets to Slaughterhouse 5 and she enters from the roof, and she's like looking down and spying on these two dunces who are like arguing back and forth about who took the last sip of water from, they're like standing over like a boiling cauldron or whatever. And they're like arguing about who's took the last sip of water. And it's like, you took the last sip of water. You go fill it up. So one of the guys grabs the container and he's like, all right, I'm going to go fill it up in the rain thing outside. So while he's going out there, Emily drops down and chokes him out. And she's like, all right, I'm going to put his clothes on. And she like puts him down, and she realizes, much like Corvo in an earlier chapter, Emily sees the clothes he's wearing, like, this is a whaler uniform. What the fuck? And she spins out a little seeing that. So she puts the guy's clothes on and leaves him somewhere. And she goes back to the other guy. He's like, hey, did you get the thing filled up with the water? And she just shakes her head. And he's like, well, what are you doing? And then she chokes him out and hides his body. So she starts like looking around, going up the stairs. And then suddenly another whaler, who was clearly Gallia, calls out to her and says, hey, come up here. There's a meeting upstairs. And so Emily is in like full whaler gear, so her face is hidden behind the mask. That's why you can't tell who she is. So she goes upstairs with Gallia, and her and the other whalers meet the boss, Zukov. He's in the room, and he begins outlining the plan. But while he's doing this, she starts having visions while she's near him. And the visions are like of Dunwall on fire, and her father ruling as tyrants. And that's the end of chapter 10. And in between parts 1 and 2, we get a brief interlude, which is set several years prior, featuring Zukov and his friend Milosh heading down into a mine under the ice. Milosh wants to show him something he found, an altar to the outsider. And Milosh is like, hey, listen, if this altar is here, that means that there is like ways out of the prison. But Zukov is hearing the call of the outsider at this point and picks up a ceremonial knife off the altar, and he stabs Milosh to death and kills the shit out of him. Just murders the shit out of him.
Is anyone actually surprised? Like, this is clearly where that was going. Yeah.
That is the end of part 1, which is a lot of stuff happening.
That's almost 170 pages. That is a long ass part 1.
And I didn't even get into everything I could have in that. Like, there's just a lot of lore packed in there as well. I tried to keep it as much to the story beats as possible, but there were pages of like, George R.R. Martin levels of like, tangents on world building. Which I think is like, if you are a huge Dishonored fan, and I'm a pretty big Dishonored fan, it's neat, but I don't think it's anything that you don't get out of the game itself. Because the game also has a lot of world building in it with the audio logs and the things you read and stuff like that. So, but still, I'm verging on good so far with just I'm the Gallia character. I don't understand at all. I just don't get it. I don't know what he's trying to go for with her. She seems to just change her mood on a whim at certain points. So
she's an odd character. Yeah, I agree.
So what do you think so far?
Well, I mean, I think partially it's because I told myself I was going to start playing the first one, and I haven't yet. I'm of two minds of it too. On one hand, God, it's dense. There is so much shit that gets talked about and rehashed and everything. But on the other hand, he's a very good writer.
Yeah.
So I don't mind so much. It's dense, but kind of well written at the same. Well, not kind of, definitely well written at the same time. So as much as it makes me go, Jesus Christ, man, I think part of it is that I'm reading it on a deadline because of the show. And if I was just reading this, like right now, for example, I'm reading outside of the book here. I'm reading East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and that's a very big, epic kind of book. Sure. And it's taking me forever, but it's just so well written that I do not mind in the slightest, because it's all about the journey that he's taking you on. And I think maybe I would be even more in favor of this if I was reading it just like for myself and not for the show or something like that.
Right.
It's hard to say. And you made an interesting point saying that there's a lot of this stuff that's in the game already. So maybe if I had played the game, there would be aspects of this that might even come off as a little tedious, where it's like, yeah, we know. I know that.
Yeah, there's like stuff that is just like rehashing what happened in the game. So I guess it's like there for because this was written, I think this came out not long before Dishonored 2 came out, or after Dishonored 2 came out. Either way, it would have been a little bit before you played. Like between playing Dishonored 1 and reading this, there would have been a little bit of time.
So it gets you up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, it gets you up to speed a little bit.
That makes sense.
Which is kind of a tightrope that you have to walk.
This would have come out the same year that Dishonored 2 came out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's one of 3 Dishonored books, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And the next one came out the next 2 both came out in 2018.
Okay.
So that which does that coincide with the third one? I don't know.
With Death of the Outsider, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right after that.
Yeah, right after that, and it's so September 14, 2017, and it's more about the because that one is about Daud and Billy. What's her name?
Billy. There's a great name.
Is it Billy Lurk?
Something like that. It was like
Billy Lurk.
Yeah, it's a great thief name.
Yeah. She's played by Rosario Dawson. I think in the game. But yeah. So with that all being said, Phil, what are you playing?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because I'm still playing through just the challenges and stuff of Jurassic World Evolution 2. That's a delightful little romp that I'm having fun slowly peeling away. I had taken a little break from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and I picked that up again, and this week just slammed through one of the chapters. Still love it, still having a blast with it. I can absolutely see why this is such a classic. It's so funny and charming, and I'm grinning like an idiot the entire time I'm playing it, so it's lovely. But more to the point of new stuff, I played the demo for a game called Conscript. This is pretty cool. It's a pixelated survival horror game that takes place in the trenches of World War One. It's got at first it has the vibe of what was it, one of our games of the year last year.
One eternity later.
Is it Amnesia?
Yes.
Bunker?
Jesus Christ. God damn it. I don't know what's going on with my brain.
I feel like I should put like the SpongeBob 12 hours later.
That's exactly what you should do. Yes. Yeah, at first I thought we were going for that because they make a point of saying like this is survival horror, et cetera, et cetera. I played through the demo, and as far as I can tell, as far as I played through it, the horror, there's no monster. This is not a supernatural horror. The horror is just goddamn World War One.
It's World War One, which you know, yeah.
And you're this French conscript, and you're in the trenches, and they make a point of saying like, look, the trenches, it goes back and forth, and we take over territory that we lost, and then they take it back, and then...
Well, that makes sense, because one of the most affecting horror short stories that I read in the set in the Warhammer, in the 40K universe, was the one that was just about a planet where it was a what's the guy that has to like keep morale up or whatever.
You're talking about the Commissar?
The Commissar.
Yeah.
The Commissar, and it's just a trench warfare planet.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and the mud is so hot that like the bodies just get boiled as when they fall to the ground. And there's nothing supernatural going on.
Exactly.
It's just war. And
it's just war.
Terrible.
War is hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that. And it's got on the other, but it does have a Resident Evil feel to it. There's a lot of covering the map and finding the key to go over here and to do this, choosing whether or not it's worth your bullets to take out the German soldier who's chasing you around, that sort of thing. And it's very tense. The sound design on it is crazy good. I recommend playing it with headphones for anyone who's listening. It's just because it's just the ambient noise of the war around you is fucking intense. I think it's a beautiful game. And what's funny is if you look it up on Steam, it's actually on Nintendo Switch too. And I think that's where I'm going to buy the full game. I think I'm going to do it for my Switch. When you pull it up, the art for the game is kind of, it just, I maybe this is just me, but it makes me think a little of just like, you know, what do you call it? Just kind of a cheaper version of what it actually is.
Sure.
It's not, it's
the official, like the game art on Steam versus like what, it needs a better poster.
It needs a better poster, and it's just a much better game than all that. The demo is wonderful. It's this one came out of absolutely nowhere for me. I've just been digging through demos just for the fun of it, just to see what else is out there.
And
this
great.
This is why you do that. Like, this took me completely off guard, and I freaking love it. I highly, highly recommend at least downloading the demo and giving it a try. It's fascinating stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. What, Kevin, what are you playing?
Oh boy. So I've been playing. I mean, I'm still on Shadow of the Erdtree.
Sure.
Almost done. I said that last week, but I sang it again this week. Almost done.
Well, I mean, almost done when it comes to Elden Ring, I imagine is like a month-long process. So.
Well, yeah. What's funny is like I'll be like almost done, and then I'll just go off the beaten path and be like, oh, what's this? And then it's like, oh, there's a dungeon here. I'm gonna go do that.
And we're gonna check this out.
I'm gonna check this out. Yeah, basically, I'm at the point where I could probably go towards like the final boss area if I wanted to, but I'm just like, I'm going through and I'm tying up all loose ends because I want to like, I think this is the first time I might jump into a new game, like New Game Plus situation. I usually don't. I'm not a New Game Plus guy, but I might actually do it. But before I do jump into New Game Plus, I want to make sure that I'm collecting everything I can now with the whole map unlocked, because it carries over when you start the new game. So yeah, I just want to make sure that I got it. I got everything I need. Strangely enough, today it was dropped. The Doom 1, Doom 2 update was dropped on Steam.
I was just looking at that.
I started playing it again. So I'm playing Doom again. Not the new Doom, not Doom 2016, not Doom Eternal. No. Doom from 1993. And it's got achievements in it now. I got an achievement called Groovy, which is 3 multi-kills with the shotgun.
Nice.
Groovy. So it's fun. It's Doom.
Yeah.
So but that's the thing, though. It's not just Doom and Doom 2. It's a bunch of other stuff too. It's got a bunch of other level packs. It's Plutonia experiment. It's got look at that. Sigil, which was by the John Romero level packs called Sigil in there.
Legacy of Rust.
Yeah, Legacy of Rust. Master levels. So it's like Doom 1, Doom 2, and then like 6 more Doom games.
Cool. Fucking cool.
It is like the best thing to have and hold. And
Nice.
You all should get it because it's Doom. Hey, if you've never played Doom, you should play Doom. If you've never played Doom, you should play Doom. You will be stunned with how goddamn fast the game is. Mm-hmm. There are, retro shooters, the boomer shooters that kind of emulate it a bit, but you're still shocked when you get to Doom from 1993 and it's like, oh my God. You're like the guy on the commercial, is an RCA commercial where he puts on the song and he gets like blown back in his chair. That is a old fucking reference, and I'm gonna say
it's an old fucking game.
Willow and Josh of our listeners are gonna understand that reference.
Good call.
The 40-year-olds will pick up on that one. Been playing Doom and Doom 2, and also, as I said earlier, I fired up Dishonored 1 again because, as I mentioned, I guess I never beat it on my Steam version of it, so I had to do that.
It's out of your hands. I mean, what
it's out of my
choice do you
hands.
have?
I am not kidding. I get a little weird when I see that I have a game in Steam, but I've beaten it on another platform. But on the Steam version, I've never played it, and I'm like, well.
No, I know exactly what I've got a folder because the naive notion that I will ever dig through my backlog with any level of significance. I have a folder just called finished, and I just put the games in it that I've finished in there. And every now and then I have to go through my just full games list just to throw some in that maybe I forgot about. And it takes everything in me to put in a version of a game that I've beaten on another system, on a console or something like that, but it's got zero gameplay on Steam. It takes effort for me to actually do that and
to actually mark it. Because I have a similar thing, a similar category folder on Steam that's just beaten with an exclamation point. So I can see, I can just look at that grouping. And, there it is. But I have trouble otherwise.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's beaten? So 60. I have 63 games labeled with that on Steam. There's probably more that I can say. Vampire Survivors is beaten. I know.
Yeah, for me, with finished, it also has to do with a game that it's like, look, I may not have beaten it, but I'm finished with it. I'm done.
Yes. There's more I can add in there. Like I have LA Noire on Steam now. I beat it back when it first came out. I might be playing it again because I have it now on Steam.
I think of that game every now and then. That game pops into my head. I'm like, do I want to sit down and play through that game again? I just
love
same as Bully. Bully does that for me too, and I've beaten Bully twice.
Yeah,
and I still every now and then think about it.
I have a little bit of a thing for 1940s, 1950s Los Angeles.
It's
like
so good.
Stories, just like they're like catnip for me. So LA Noire is like, I need another one. I know they're never gonna make another one. They're never gonna do it.
We're lucky they made the one that they did.
But I need something like it because it is it's catnip. Just like
it's a great era. It's really cool.
You just have that lonely trumpet playing.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the scenes take place at night.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
But you know what? That'll do it for tonight's episode. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you can, follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. Follow us for free on Patreon. It's free. And actually, if you can, if you listen to us regularly on a podcast app, go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube as well, because we're trying to make that push towards monetization on YouTube. I'd love to get it done by the end of this year. We're at 286 subscribers on YouTube. We need 500 in order to get that monetization on YouTube. So please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the bell me, bro. And you know, that'll be great. That'll be awesome. That will be the end of the episode. End of the episode. Bye.